So good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Antonio Reynoso, and I am the president of the greatest borough in the city of New York, which is Brooklyn, first and foremost. And it's a bittersweet moment to be here this morning, but I'm very grateful to everybody that's here behind me. Today, we are going to clarify a few things, some misconceptions about who is fighting to solve this problem. You see, some folks in the federal government think that this is a Mayor Adams versus the Biden administration fight. And this couldn't be further from the truth. This is New York versus the Biden administration. You might have heard from Mayor Adams, but today you're gonna feel New York. You might not know who some of these folks are behind me or who I am, but allow me to reintroduce myself. I am Antonio Reynoso, and I'm one of the leaders of the progressive movement in New York City. I'm standing with Democrats along the full spectrum of ideologies. Heck, we even have some Republicans with us here. Because this is not only the mayor telling you to step up, we're all telling you to step up. You see, it is one thing to not be helpful, which the Biden administration has done masterfully. It's a whole new thing to have the Biden administration get in our way. We need to realign political calculations on whether or not assisting us here in New York is a good idea. The Biden administration is gonna find out very quickly that it's politically dangerous to stand against us. We in the city of New York are in crisis. Many folks might not feel it because we're doing the best to house every single person that comes into New York, as is our charter and constitution mandated responsibility. We want the asylum seekers here. We want the migrants here. It is who we are as New Yorkers. But this responsibility on addressing immigration issues falls on the federal government. There are only so many things we could do legally at the state and city level. We can only pass so many laws that tinker at the margins of this problem. But the federal government could deal with the core problem, and they are not. And they've left us to figure it out on ourselves. Now, the mayor and I might disagree on exactly how to get there, but this is not for a lack of effort. This mayor is doing the best he can under the circumstances to solve for this problem. The best he can. The state can do more, but the federal government has been completely absent. Completely absent. I want to be clear, zero. Their effort amounts to zero. And we need to stand up and make sure that the administration is hearing us. And I'm tired of it just being Mayor Adams versus the administration, because it is not. We have advocates here and elected officials that have been fighting alongside these migrants the entire time. And before we get to the mayor, let me say a few words in Spanish. En este momento lo que estamos haciendo es asegurando que la administración de Biden sepa que esto no es una lucha contra solamente el alcalde de Nueva York, Eric Adams. Esto es una lucha contra todo Nueva York. Aquí hay políticos atrás de mí, parte de los progresistas, los moderados, los conservativos, hasta unos cuantos republicanos que están con nosotros. Todo unido para decirle al presidente de este país que necesitamos ayuda. Y si en este momento él cree que es mejor ignorarnos a nosotros en vez de ayudarnos, él va a sentir la fuerza del estado y de la ciudad de Nueva York. Porque ya basta, ya estamos cansados de hacer este trabajo solo. Necesitamos ayuda. Y él se tiene que enseñar la cara y tiene que ayudarnos. And with us, I want to bring up another leader in the progressive movement of this fight that has been in the front lines of immigration issues long before he became public advocate. Arguably, the leader of immigration policy in the city council when I was there. That is your public advocate, Jumaane Williams.
Thank you so much. Peace and blessing, love and light to you all. Thank you for being here. And as the Borough President mentioned, you have a broad spectrum of political thought here. And I, like the Borough President, make sure that we are open when there's disagreement with the mayor or the city, or even how the city is handling things when it comes to even this issue. But where there is complete alignment is that this city cannot handle this humanitarian crisis by itself. And I want to be clear. The reason we're in this crisis is because of Republican governors who wanted to create this crisis. So I want to be clear where it starts from. It is the GOP and the Republican governors. But we're here now. And the reason the crisis is getting worse and worse and worse, and while the mayor has to make impossible decisions, we're at a point where all of the choices are bad, and we have to make the best of bad choices. The reason that is happening is because we're not getting the help that we need, primarily from the White House, primarily from Washington. I have asked and will ask again that President Biden himself come and visit. Maybe if he saw with his own two eyes what was going on, he will step up from the sidelines. I too met with Tom Perez when we went to DC. We asked for some of the same things we're asking for now. We asked that they speed up work authorization. We asked for a renewal of TPS. We asked for them to be a coordinated effort from the White House. We should not have to be making a coordinated federal effort from New York City. There also needs to be a declaration of emergency, an emergency declaration from the White House so we can get the resources that we need. I also want to say that the state needs to do some more, and I'm thankful they are now stepping up. I will be clear, it took too long for the state to get involved and for the governor to get involved, but we need more. We also need the state to help with municipalities and cities across this state so we can all work on this together. We need funding as well. But if the state started too late, and thankfully doing some now, as the borough president said, we're getting nothing from the federal government. If this fails in New York City, what's going to happen in the rest of the state? And I'm going to say something political here, because I think there could be impact in the race. Maybe not for Biden, but what's going to happen on the races below that, on the congresspeople below that, people who are going to be upset because we failed on this issue, which is the issue of our time right now. All of us are united. I know the press likes to do their thing with the mayor. I get it, I understand, but I want folks to be clear that on the message saying that we can't do this alone, that we need additional help, we need additional resources, you probably won't see this combination of folks again on an issue. But this is to show you how bad it is in New York City, where the Statue of Liberty says, bring us your huddled masses. We want to help. We're designed to help. I think if other cities and municipalities went and saw the way that the city is responding, they can mimic some of it, they can copy some of it, but we cannot do it alone. I am a first-generation American. My parents came from the Caribbean. They may have stayed over a little bit. Some people from the Caribbean stay over a little bit. They do their thing, they get here, I got it. I have family that was undocumented. We understand clearly. We want to do the best that we can. We are not able to do that because we are not getting the help that we need. So thank you, Tom Perez, for coming. President Biden, please step up and provide the resources that are needed so we can match this humanitarian crisis with a real humanitarian response. We're begging, we're pleading, united as a voice. We need help, and we need it now. Lastly, I will say, these asylum seekers are doing everything they're supposed to be doing legally. We shouldn't treat people who are not like they're not human beings. So I want to be clear about that. But for the people who are sending the wrong message, these are folks seeking asylum. What would make you take your family through the jungle? Your baby, your pregnant wife, what would you be trying to escape? Let's think about that before we jump to the otherization. These are folks who are running away from harm. They're running away from danger, doing their best to protect themselves. If we are going to tell other countries to open their borders when there's a crisis, then we have to do the same and provide a humanitarian response for people who are seeking safety. Let's be clear about that. Thank you so much. It's time for folks to step up.
Thank you, Public Advocate Jumaane Williams. And with us, we have one of the districts that is arguably most affected by the amount of asylum seekers that are coming into their district. And they've been nothing but a gracious host in that work and ally. And I want to call up Councilmember Alexa Aviles.
Good morning, everyone.
morning.
Gracias, thank you. My name is Alexa Aviles. I am the council member for District 38, which includes Sunset Park and Red Hook. And I want to reaffirm what you are hearing today. New York City is a welcoming city. We have harbored immigrants from the beginning of our story, and we will continue to do so. What we are imploring here and have implored from day one, even prior to this crisis, the immigration system in this country has been woefully broken. We have been fighting for decades for comprehensive immigration reform, which has not been delivered by any administration. But we are here today, not only to continue to demand that we fix the system, but that the federal government step up. What we need is a national strategy to step into the values of this government, to step into the values of our Constitution. So we are demanding a national strategy with funding that demonstrates our values, right? What is happening now is unconscionable. You cannot turn the other way and imagine that it is gone. I am very proud of New York City for stepping up and saying this is a welcoming city and reaffirming that with as much resource as possible, but it is not possible to do this alone. So I am here again with my colleagues saying to the federal government, to the Biden administration, you must put forward a national strategy. Fix this immigration system. We need comprehensive immigration reform. You can advance work authorization and all the other tools that we have been demanding for months, if not years, including TPS. So again, thank you for being here. New York City is a welcoming city. We will not allow dog whistles. We will not allow people to be dehumanized. We stand firm in the dignity of all people. Muchísimas gracias. Que el gobierno federal nos ayuda, por favor, que haga una estrategia nacional con recursos, porque esto es una situación que necesitamos bregar en todo el país. No es solamente un estado contra el otro, sino todo el país. Que nosotros somos un país de inmigrantes y un país de dignidad. Muchísimas gracias.
Thank you so much. We're going to jump around here a bit. Want to call up our state senator, Jabari Brisport.
All right, good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
So I'm New York State Senator Jabari Brisport. I actually, my district has one of the sites on Hull Street, which is on track to be one of the largest respite centers and the HERC centers in New York City, hosting nearly 2,000 asylum seekers when it's at full completion. And that's part of what we're doing here, is saying we are welcoming them with open arms. This is a city built on people looking for a better life to improve upon themselves. You have the city built on immigrants of every single color, from every single part of the globe, of every single faith, either coming here or the descendants of people who came here looking for a better life. But at the federal level, we need help to get it done. We need, in the immediate term, space. And that means the federal government needs to stop. The White House needs to stop refusing to grant us the use of spaces like Floyd Bennett Field. We also need money. We need funding. And the state government was able to step up with $1 billion. We're going to fight to do more next year in next year's budget. But from the federal government, we have gotten pennies. We need the funding and the dollars to ensure this can be a good transition for the people we are welcoming into New York State. And the last thing, I do want to reiterate what Councilwoman said about expedited work authorization. So many of these people came here ready and willing to work. Some of them walked across the desert. They are ready and willing to work. And we have a White House that is refusing to expedite work authorizations. Don't tell me you care about the economy when you're blocking people from working. Don't tell me you care about public safety when you're blocking people from working. We have labor shortages across so many sectors in nursing, in childcare, lifeguards, and people are being blocked from working when they're here to work. We need the Biden administration to step up because when they don't, they hurt all New Yorkers, and we want to help all New Yorkers. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Senator Jabari Brisport. I do want to acknowledge we're also here with the Hotel Trades Council, and they were here. Yes. They were here before people thought it was a crisis. Before people thought it was a crisis, they've been on the front lines. They didn't wait till it got popular to be advocates of this fight. They were there before it got hot. So we want to thank them for all the work that they've done. Thank you so much to HTC. Now, for a little contrast here, I told you about the political spectrum, and the public advocate was correct in saying you might never see us standing here again on another issue. You might never see us again standing on another issue. But this issue has united us all. I want to call up Assemblymember Lester Chang to say a few words. Thank you.
Thank you, Borough President. Thank you, Mayor. You're here. I'm Lester Chang, Assemblyman, District Number 49, represents Sunset Park, Borough Park, Dyker Heights, and Bensonhurst. And it's true that my elected colleagues over here were different political spectrum. I'm a conservative Republican here, probably the only one here right now.
Pretty much.
Yeah. But we have to understand what created this problem was the failed administration policy of migration in here. And that causes a lot of reaction from the GOP governor to send all these migrants in here. But again, be as it may, migrants are here. New York City, if you remember history, over 100 years ago, there's an island called Ellis Island. Ellis Island that served immigrants. Served immigrants so many years ago. So they have the way to process, way to bring welcoming these immigrants in here. So we're here right now, and it's and we're solving just a Band-Aid on that. We really need the government, federal government. We need the White House. There's only so much resources we have in the city and state. Yes, we did pass a budget on the state level to help us, to help New York, but that's not enough. We already serve over 100,000 migrants in this city, and it's coming, and I know that. Last Friday, I'm still a naval militia. Last Friday, I attended a senior leadership up in Albany, and our soldiers are preparing migrants to migrate throughout the states. They haven't been tasked, but we're preparing on that. So we need the White House to do two key critical things. First is accelerate the work authorization. They need work. They need to make a living. That's the first thing we need to do. And Biden could do that. He can do with a pen, with executive order. If his former boss, former President Obama, could able to do DACA on executive order, he can do the work authorization. Second, he needs to mobilize. He needs to declare an emergency so he can fund federal resources for us, for the city. That's what we need to do, two things only from the president himself. And we're ready. And we're willing to help the migrants over here because we're humans. They're here. I'm a first generation born here. My family came from China. I know what's it like to be an immigrant family. So the human thing to do is to get them the resources they need and help the city, because if we don't do it right now, this city is going to be a financial crisis again, back in the 70s and 80s. We don't need that. So please, whatever you can, the Biden administration must help us, fund us, and support us. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, Assemblymember Lester Chang. I'm extremely grateful for you to be here and speak on the united front that we have, calling on the Biden administration to finally step up. Next, I want to call up Assemblymember Robert Carroll.
Good morning. I'm Assemblymember Robert Carroll. First, I'd like to thank Borough President Antonio Reynoso for bringing us all together, and Mayor Adams for all the hard work that he and his administration have been doing over the last 6 months as we've confronted this challenge. Without his leadership, without both of your leadership, we would be in much more dire straits. But the facts of the matter are, New York City cannot do this alone.
Yes.
Too often, both the state and the federal government give the short end of the stick to New York City. We are a net provider of resources to both the state and the federal government. It is time for the state and the federal government to provide direct resources for New York City so that we can do the right thing. We can do the humane thing, because New York City is and has always been a city of immigrants, and New York City will continue to be a city of immigrants and continue to be a city that welcomes people from around the world. But we cannot do that humanely and justly if we do not have the resources to treat these folks as human beings and as people who are in dire need of assistance. And so what we need right now is resources, and those resources can only come from two places, Albany and Washington, D.C. I know that myself, and I see Assemblywoman Marcella Mataines and State Senator Jabari Brisport, I know that we're going to try to do our end in Albany. We need our congressional delegation, we need our senators, and we need the president to step up and provide these desperate resources. Again, I want to thank Borough President Antonio Reynoso, I want to thank Mayor Adams, and I want to thank everybody who's here to make sure we get this done and get it done for the people who desperately need these resources.
Yes, that's correct.
Thank you, thank you. And yeah, I want to thank New York City. It's a good call, because the residents of New York City are stepping up. The folks in Brooklyn are stepping up. We're seeing people look for food, for clothing, showing up, some of them giving their apartments. New York City is showing out. We're showing the entire nation. There's no other city in this country that would have taken on 70,000 asylum seekers or migrants and been in the condition that we are now. You know, right now they're all housed. And in the cases where we're getting to the dire end of our capacity to house people, 70,000 people. Do that anywhere else, and you would have 60,000 people out in the streets. And not here. We're doing the best we can. And then I also want to talk about something we haven't talked about yet is Floyd Bennett Field. The federal government is not giving us any money. The federal government is not authorizing work authorization. And then the governor asked the president to let us use Floyd Bennett Field hangars that are more appropriate, because they're not tents in the middle of a beach, let's say, but they're more appropriate. And the federal government tells us no.
That ain't right.
It's one thing to not help us. It's another thing to get in our way, which is what it seems like the federal government is doing now. Not only are they not wanting to help us, they want to stop us from making progress. It's making it so that people with little are fighting against people with less. That's what they're trying to pit against us. But we're New York. They're in big trouble if they think that we're just going to lay down and take it. And that's what we're saying today. We're standing up to them. Another member in the state who's also, again, ground zero when it comes to the amount. We have the cruise terminal. We have the largest HERC. We have Sunset Park, where all these folks are, well, a significant amount of migrants are headed. I want to call up Assemblymember Marcella Mitañez.
Buenos días a todos. Yo soy Marcela Mitaines, soy la primera inmigrante peruana en la legislatura estatal y represento el Distrito 51 con los vecindarios de Red Hook, Sunset Park y parte de Bay Ridge. Estamos aquí porque es evidente que este problema necesita los tres niveles de gobierno trabajando juntos. Sabemos que Nueva York es una ciudad de inmigrantes. Estamos con brazos abiertos, bienvenido a la gente nueva, pero lo que necesitamos son recursos. A nivel estatal hemos designado $1 billón. Sabemos que no es suficiente y vamos a seguir luchando para más. Pero lo que necesitamos es acción de parte del gobierno federal. Estamos invitando al presidente que venga y vea él mismo lo que está pasando, que nos dé acceso a espacio necesario y los procesos necesarios para acelerar el proceso de las personas nuevas que están llegando. Eso no es fácil, pero lo hacemos con humildad y con humanidad, porque eso es lo que merecen. Todos hemos venido aquí como inmigrantes simplemente pidiendo la oportunidad para una vida mejor. Y eso es lo que están pidiendo ellos también, y aquí estamos para ayudar. So I just want to repeat really quickly in English. My name is Marcela Matenes, and I'm the first immigrant Peruvian in the state legislature. I represent the 51st Assembly District that includes neighborhoods of Sunset Park, Red Hook, and part of Bay Ridge. New York City, New York, we are an immigrant town. We welcome our new neighbors, but it's not easy, and it's been difficult and hard on the lack of resources that we have. And we're asking the federal government, and we're inviting the president to actually come down and look and see what is happening here. Our community members, organizations, elected officials in my district have been a beautiful example of what we can do when we come together. And that is what we're doing. We need all levels of government to come together, and we need to be united on this front. Thank you.
Thank you, Assembly Member. And I just want to reiterate something that the public advocate said as well. Lester, if you want to close your ears on this one, you can. This is a warning. And I'm a creature of the light, positive energy, all love, all day. But there might come a time when we lose congressional seats over this issue. And we are warning you, don't blame New York.
Yeah.
Don't blame us. We don't want anyone coming in here and saying, oh, New York lost seats because they couldn't handle this. That the federal government can't do anything about passing legislation that's deeply important. We have to be mindful that if we can't pass meaningful legislation in the years to come because we don't have a majority in Congress, because we can't pass budgets that'll account for the needs that we have here in New York City in future budgets, that it isn't our fault. We don't want anyone from outside coming in and saying New York did anything. This is the federal government's responsibility. Show up, and if you lose, it's your fault. It's your on notice. I don't want to see any printed media, any media talking about New York. We're doing our part. We're protecting you by housing 70,000 people without any issue. That's what we're doing. We're protecting you. And all we're saying is come and help us. But if it goes the wrong way, don't call us. Don't quote us. You're forewarned that this might happen, and it won't be our fault. We are absolved at this point.
Yes, agreed. We agree with that.
All right. The next one is now there are people outside of electeds that are looking to do the best they can, and they've been doing this work long before this became a crisis. We're helping out in the world of immigration, seeking solutions, looking for resources to be able to provide services that we're lacking. And I want to call up those advocates. First, from the New York Immigration Coalition, my brother Theo Moore.
Yo.
Morning, folks. Good to be here this morning and to see all of our elected officials showing up and really understanding that as the public advocate stated, the words that are written on the Statue of Liberty do not only apply to New York City, it applies to the entire country. And those aren't aspirational words. That's literally what we're charged to do. It is our responsibility. Everyone who seeks safety and freedom in this country should be able to have it. Now, the community has stepped up in a major way. From day one when we started seeing asylum seekers come here last year in the spring, community stepped up. Community organizations, our mutual aid organizations, nonprofits, in a major way. A lot of times, individuals putting up their homes, putting up their own food, when food prices were really skyrocketing, money out of their own pocket. And we understand that it takes government a little bit longer to respond, and eventually New York City stepped up in a major way and has been bearing the brunt of the asylum seekers since the beginning as far as government response. But here we are over a year later, and we're still waiting for a major response from the federal government. And it's taken too long. And New York City can no longer bear the brunt of the responsibility of all of the asylum seekers. We understand that it's our responsibility because folks want to be here. Who doesn't want to be here? Who doesn't want to be in Brooklyn? It's great. It's the summertime. We love it.
And we got a Biggie statue.
We got a Biggie statue. But we have to understand that a humanitarian crisis is not the responsibility of one municipality. It actually is the responsibility of the entire country. So we need the Biden administration to step up immediately. We need to expand TPS to all of the countries where we're seeing asylum seekers. And that includes Venezuela, Guatemala, Mali, Mauritania, the Democratic Republic of Congo, Nigeria, Sudan, Senegal. We're seeing folks from all of those nations, and we need TPS call out the countries. It's a lot. So we need TPS expanded to all of those nations. The second thing we need is expedited work authorization so that people can work legally and not have to subject themselves to the abuses of the underground labor market. People don't understand how hard it is to work. People want to actually provide for their families. They want to be self-sufficient, and the Biden administration can give that ability to them right now. And third, we need money. We need funding. We need money specifically for housing support and for legal services so that folks have access to housing, preferably permanent housing, and they have the legal assistance that they need to apply for asylum and really to navigate our overly complex immigration legal system. Those are the things we need first and foremost from the Biden administration. And you see all of our elected officials and advocates calling for it, and we hope he actually heeds our plea. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And I just want to acknowledge, someone has been saying for everyone, the thing that happens here is that we have to use resources that we don't have to accommodate the migrants and the asylum seekers that are here. That's a level of responsibility that we have. But in doing so, make it harder for resources to come to folks that have been living in shelter for 2-3 years, and they need help. And now we're pulling on each other. When I talk about the people with little fighting against the people with less, that's what we succumb to. And that's not the fight I want. That's not what New York is about. There are people with a lot that could be doing a lot more. The federal government could be doing a lot to resolve this issue so that we don't use the already thin services that we need for folks in homeless shelters, right, for the migrants. But that is the case and what we have to do now. I want to call up now from Mixteca, Lorena Curuzais. All right. I'm sorry about it.
That's perfect. Hi, good morning, everyone. I'm Lorena Corucias, the Executive Director of Mixteca. Mixteca is located in Sunset Park here in Brooklyn. And we have been for 23 years working with the immigrant community. And we know how to do the job. We do it every single day. When the asylum seekers come in larger numbers, we knew how to do the job. And we started doing it. From day one, we joined other groups at Penn Station receiving immigrants. And we've been doing, as I'm standing here today, I have a group of people, asylum seekers, getting OSHA training. And we are doing this with the resources we are getting from the city and from some foundations or from some people like you. But we can continue doing this. The number of people getting into our doors every single day have overpassed our capacity. We have people, organizations open the doors from Monday through Sunday because we can't do it otherwise. We have to provide mental health services. We have to provide referrals, legal services, food. I won't start doing all the services there, but we need support. We have people living extremely violent conditions. We have people that just escaped from violence to be here in this city facing other violence and other abuses. We have people that are working for less than $5 an hour because they want to work, and we need support. We need more support to continue doing what we're doing because many things that we've been doing now is because of your support of the money we are getting from the city. And we can continue. It's really hard to say who's going to be in the OSHA class. I have so many people just requesting this, and you know why? Because they want to go to work. They are not here coming here to stay and to live from the money from others. They are here to work. They are here to make a difference for their families and for this country. Let's don't forget what the immigrant community has been doing in this country. This country is what it is now because of the immigrant community. And if we don't remember that, just remember who in your family, if not yourself, like myself, is the immigrant in your family. Is your father? Is your mother? That's the treatment you want for them? That's exactly what we are asking now. To have now the opportunity to correct the immigration system that is broken. And we can do something right now. We are demanding the federal government to give us the resources. Look how many people we've been able to serve and to attend so far with the little money we are getting now. And what we can do is to really organize all the resources if the federal government join us in these efforts. And that's what I'm going to be saying today. I was about to tell you some story, but I don't want to take too much time. I just want to encourage everyone to join us in this fight. We need the resources. We can let this happen again and again because the consequences in 5 years we all gonna experience. Not only the people are there in the city. This is gonna affect everyone. And until we are able to provide the resources to everyone, no one is gonna be safe in this country and is in other countries as well. So thank you so much. Hope you all join us in this fight. We need resources. We need support, and I want to thank everyone that has been there for us, donating or volunteering their time and supporting the community that is already here. So we are asking the federal government to do the same. So thank you, everyone. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And now we're going to call up Bridge Street Development Corporation, Gregory Anderson. Greg. Thank you, my brother.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. My name is Gregory Anderson, and I have the honor of serving as President and CEO of Bridge Street Development Corporation. We are a community-based, nonprofit, based in Bedford-Stuyvesant, Brooklyn, and Central Brooklyn, one of the finest communities in the greatest borough in the greatest city on earth. Since last year, Bridge Street Development has been providing one-stop, wraparound services, including food and clothing distribution and access to legal, financial, educational, physical and mental health services to thousands of asylum seekers of all ages. And to be clear, these are the services we provide to everyone in our community. We are just widening the circle to let more people in and provide the services to those most in need now. But as the need and costs of these services increase, the need for federal support is critical. So Bridge Street Development stands firmly with Borough President Reynoso, Mayor Adams, our other elected officials, and our other community stakeholders in imploring, no, demanding greater federal resources to address this issue. I want to take a moment to thank Mayor Adams and commend his administration for coordinating the efforts of nonprofit organizations throughout the city so that we can have the maximum impact with minimal resources. But we need greater resources. The time to act is now. Thank you very much.
And we want to just acknowledge that we've also been joined by representatives of New York Comptroller Brad Lander's office. Jade Vasquez is here. Gregory Kursop is here from Assemblymember Michael Novikov. Andrew Epstein from Assemblymember Emily Gallagher is here. Brian Keppel from Assemblymember Faris Affront is here. Naomi Hopkins from Councilmember Chio Say is here. Zunetta Ahmed from Senator Iwan Chu is here as well. And we have Samantha Johnson. Oh, Samantha Johnson's here from Congresswoman Nydia Velasquez's office. Okay, and now, you know, some people might have thanked him, and I'm going to hold back on that because I want to make sure that the press gets this. the story might be, after this, the story might be about Mayor Eric Adams, but it shouldn't be. It's about everyone else. We're all fighting this fight. We're all front and center. We are all calling on the federal government. This is not just a Mayor Adams fight. This is a New York fight. And New York is showing up. And when I called on all of these folks here are Brooklyn elected officials. And I'm glad that the mayor didn't forget where he's from, because he's from Brooklyn too. And while there are citywide representatives here, they still remember, they know where they're from, which is Brooklyn. So I want to thank Mayor Adams for coming to this press conference on this issue, and he'll be the last speaker. Your mayor, Eric Adams.
I appreciate you and the awesome leadership displayed by Borough President Reynoso, and the leadership displayed by Jimani Williams, our public advocate, and all of our colleagues that are here. And I think the most significant aspect of this combined display of electeds across the political spectrum is a real indicator and reflection that even in areas of disagreement, when it's time to defend and uplift our city, we're able to set aside our political philosophies to come together and do the things that's best for the city of New York. That is a very significant level of political maturity that the body of political leaders across this city are showing, from the congressional level to our state level and our city levels, as we address the crises that's in front of us. Three quick observations. Number one, the number of individuals who have entered our city, over 100,000. 100,000. I want you, when you leave here today, go Google other cities. Go look at what is happening in other cities as they deal with the crises. New York City is receiving the overwhelming number, but even with the large volume we're dealing with the level of dignity and respect that human beings are deserved. You're not seeing that in other cities. Other cities have struggled. You're looking at tent cities with physical tent structures, people sleeping outside. I went to visit the border in El Paso and made it clear that this is not what we were going to do as a city. Number two, New Yorkers, please don't turn against each other. Don't turn against each other. That is what the enemy wants. We cannot celebrate on Sunday and Friday nights and Saturday in our synagogues, our churches, our Buddhist temples, and our Sikh temples, and talk about how great our gods are, yet we leave and use a level of hateful tone and rhetoric. Don't be just a good practitioner or worshiper, be a good practitioner. This city is supposed to be displaying what the God-like spirit is. And it doesn't mean stating that we don't want those people. Because if you would sit down, close your eyes, and reflect on your ancestry, I don't care if you were Irish Americans coming here, if you were Caribbean Americans coming here, if you were African Americans migrating from the South, if you were Jewish, Polish, Indonesian, Chinese, everyone heard this same rhetoric that's coming from the body of hateful people. So history is going to ask, what side were we on during this very difficult time? So any conversation or tones of saying those people don't deserve here, every ethnic group in this country heard people say those people don't deserve here. Your grandmothers, mothers, and fathers, and even you was set the same tone at one time. Are we going to be part of those who are having that rhetoric, or are we going to be part of those that did for our families as we made the movement forward? This is not a New York City problem. This is a national problem. 100,000 people. Over $12 billion will be spent over a 3-year period. Those $12 billion are going to come from somewhere. It's going to come from our school services. It's going to come from our streets. It's going to come from what we provide to children, what we provide for those New Yorkers who are struggling every day, our housing populations, issues that we faced long before this. Yes, we've navigated COVID. Yes, we have a recovery in our jobs. Yes, we are dealing with the other issues the city faced coming out of COVID. but it's unfair as this city continue to evolve that a national crisis, a humanitarian crisis of a level that has never been experienced before is now dropped into the lap of this city with no support that we deserve. And what is more anti-American than not allowing someone to work? What is more anti-American than that? Everyone who has arrived at this country arrived with one opportunity, and that is to work. That is to be able to provide for your family basic needs. When I spent the night in the Humanitarian Relief Center in Red Hook and talked to the migrant asylum seekers, they were very clear. We don't want your free food. We don't want your housing. We don't want your clothing. We don't want you doing anything for us. We want to work. We want to work. When I went to the Roosevelt Hotel and spoke to the African diasporas who were lined up on the sidewalk after we reached full capacity, they were clear. We don't want anything free from New York. We want to work and contribute to the New York experience. Isn't that the same thing all of our ethnic groups stated? Isn't that what we all said? Didn't we all come here? Some of us worked in factories. Some of us worked in terrible, deplorable conditions. Some of us worked in building railroads. Some of us worked with fruit stands and food stands. Some of us were cleaners. Some of us were operators. Some of us did some of the basic menial tasks so that one day we can reach the level that we can provide for our family. So what is wrong with them having the right to work? There's no reason the national government is not staying true to the basic principle of the American experience to allow you the right to work. It is unacceptable. It's unacceptable that they cannot work. Two of the most painful experiences for me was a few months ago, speaking to a mother and her children in one of our shelters. She lost her husband due to this crisis. How do you explain that? How do you explain that? And the second was the other day. During COVID-19, the former president called COVID-19 the Chinese virus. People were attacking Chinese residents and not patronizing their business. And hurtful and harmful tones were being said as they rode the subway system and moved about. And you saw just despicable remarks towards the Chinese community while they were helping give PPEs to NYCHA and other residents and movements. Yesterday when I was out in Queens, the Chinese residents came up to me and said, we need to throw those people out. They don't deserve being here. When does immigrants turn on immigrants? When does those who traveled this road, Shamani and Antonio, we could all remember what we had to do during the Haitian refugee crisis when they were turning back our Haitian brothers and sisters. We all know what they did with our Mexican brothers and sisters who came here. We have one of the largest Mexican populations in the city. When does immigrants turn on immigrants? When do we pull up the ladder that allowed us to climb up? It's not acceptable for immigrants to turn on immigrants. And everyone needs to realize that, because the ladder we pull up is the ladder that's going to prevent your family members to come here. This city needs workers. That's what HTC has said. This city needs workers. That's what my Restaurants Association have said. This city needs workers. That is what my backstretch workers have said. This city needs workers. That is what all of my construction industries have been saying. This city needs workers. That is what everyday people are saying. We need workers. We need people contributing in our society. We need people making this the melting pot that it is. That is how our city has become the greatest city on the globe, by opening our doors, but we can't do it alone. This is wrong, what is happening to the people of this city. And I thank my colleagues for having the foresight, coming together and say we don't have to be monolithic in our political theories, But we have to be monolithic. And how do we protect this city from the devastation that's on the horizon? If we don't get this right, this is the greatest challenge our city has faced in decades. We got to get it right. And Borough President, I thank you for your leadership of bringing us together. And this is not about Eric Adams, the mayor. This is about the people of the city of New York. They don't deserve this. They don't deserve this. It must be corrected. The course must be corrected to put us on the right pathway so we don't have our city go through this. Thank you very much.
I feel like we've been through quite a bit here, and I think we were very clear on our message. So I'm going to limit questions. If there are any questions, we don't want to repeat ourselves, I guess is what I'm asking. Is there anything we might have missed? Go ahead, on topic, and then the mayor's going to get going. Yes? Yeah, I think we talked about people with little fighting against people with less. I do want to say, look, the state is, Jamani Williams, the public advocate, said it. They came in late in the game, but they provided $1 billion. They're advocating to use Floyd Bennett Field. There's efforts being made. It's better late than never. So we want to be careful about making this an equitable argument that the state isn't anywhere near the level of the federal government when it comes to the work that they're doing. They're so far apart. And there's one is finally showing up, is showing that they want to be there, has committed to $1 billion, I think, next year minimum in their next budget. There's an effort there. The federal government's done zero. And we want to be very careful not to equate the levels of lack of participation in this effort between the state and the federal government. Again, it doesn't absolve the state. They do have work to do. They do need to do more. The mayor, we can do more here too. But when you compare the efforts that the mayor is putting forth, the effort that the state is putting forth, there's nowhere, we can't even touch that before we talk about the federal government. So I want to make sure that that's as well. Any other questions? Right after him, we'll go here. Yeah, this is, remember, we just talked about us versus them, right? What ends up happening in political races is that they look for the common denominator. They look to center fear around how people get elected. And we've seen that with the GOP. They fight cultural wars versus policy wars. And what's going to happen is that in Long Island, it's like, oh, we're going to have migrants coming into your neighborhood, and use that fear, right, to pit us against them to be able to win races that would be very close. In Long Island, in upstate, and we need those seats. So I want to be very clear that this can be used against the Democratic Party during these congressional races. We've seen them do a lot worse with a lot less. Any other questions? Yes, sir. Okay. Yeah, so the question is about the mayor's looking for any site or any space to be able to house migrants. And there's some churches that have spaces available, but because of their age, they don't have sprinkler systems that would put them up to code to house a significant number of people. But they said that they were going to work on seeing if they can fund conversion kits to add sprinkler systems into these buildings to then be able to house folks. I don't have, the mayor's gone. What I can do before you leave, we're going to leave you our information. And if you have a place of worship that you think might be ideal but might need those conversions to happen, we'll see if we can connect you to the resources to try to get that active as soon as possible. This is going to be the last question. Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
So one, that's 100% correct. And I always try to make sure I'm speaking about New Yorkers who have been in the shelters for a while. I also like to specifically talk about black New Yorkers who make a primarily amount of the shelter system, and black and brown New Yorkers who are making up the largest of trying to get assistance. And they should be very angry about the situation they're in. I want those New Yorkers, if you're one of them, who have been fighting to get resources, to stay angry. But I want them to be angry at the right folks. So I want them to be angry at the government that has failed them for so many years. If we get angry at the asylum seekers, it's misplaced anger because they didn't cause the problems that are here. The day before the first asylum seeker bus came, there were 50,000 New Yorkers in the shelter system, primarily black and brown. The average stay was over a year. That had nothing to do with asylum seekers. So we can't let the people who will fight the culture wars pretend that if the asylum seekers weren't here, those New Yorkers would be getting the help they should have gotten. Because if that was the case, they would have gotten it before the asylum seekers are here. So I want everybody to hold on to that anger because it is righteous anger. And many of us have been fighting for those New Yorkers for a very long time, and we will continue. As a matter of fact, if we had helped those New Yorkers, particularly with housing, this crisis wouldn't have been as bad as it is right now. So I want to be clear about that. So please hold on to that anger, but don't aim it at the folks that we shouldn't be aiming at. Let's try to help everyone. Let's focus it on city, state, and federal government that has failed everybody for such a long time.
Thank you so much, and don't forget to spread love. It's the Brooklyn way. Thank you so much. Guys, thank you guys, man.